That felt like one of the easiest Washington Wizards wins we've seen in quite some time. And I know a lot of people are already thinking about it. Are we messing up the tank? It's way too early to worry about that. I'll tell you why today on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you are locked on to the Washington Wizards, where you're part of our family. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team free and available every single day. I'm your host today, Ben Strober. AB out today. He will be back at the start of next week, Sunday, when the Wizards are back in action here at home. So let's recap a big-time win here at home, 119-99 over the lowly, depleted Brooklyn Nets. This is one of the easiest wins I've seen for this Wizards team in a long time for a lot of different reasons. And I didn't even really feel like the Wizards played that well overall. I think they did a lot of things well in this game, but this Brooklyn Nets team, depleted tonight, didn't have Michael Porter Jr. out there, didn't have Cam Thomas, didn't have Haywood Highsmith, you name it. Completely depleted, and the Nets look inept, if we're being honest, in this game. But the main point I want to make in today's show, before I give you guys an opportunity to let it all out, in the second segment, I have a bit of a shorter pod for you today, around 15 minutes or so. There's already those concerns that swirl around with this Wizards team because of the top 8 pick protection, and now that the Wizards have won 6 of their last 10 games, 4 of their last 5, people are starting to get concerned overall that the team is actually going to win too much. But I try to put this in a much larger perspective. There is a lot of basketball to be played going forward for the remainder of the season. There is plenty of time for this Wizards team to come down to earth to what they really are, but you're winning these games because your young players are developing. And that's the biggest thing you wanted to see this season, was things start to materialize, guys getting better. I loved some of the activity we saw from our young guys in this game. Keith went 10 deep in the rotation as early as the first quarter. Saw the second night in a row where A.J. Johnson cracks the rotation once again, and just run you some of the numbers. Another really good performance tonight, I thought, for Alex Sarr. He finished with 19.6 boards, 4 assists. Another huge block performance. He had 5. Alex Sarr leads the NBA in blocks right now, and I'll say it right now, I think Alex Sarr is going to make an all-NBA defensive team. And whether or not that's a hot take or not right now, I don't think it is, because Alex Sarr leads the NBA in blocks. He continues to be a dominant rim presence. He continues to put pressure on the rim on the offensive side of the basketball. Really good stuff. And another thing I love to see from Sarr tonight, just 2 3-point attempts. He got one of them to go down in the fourth quarter. That kind of quieted down that little run that Brooklyn was on at one point. The Wizards were up by as much as 28, I think, with 9 minutes left in this game. It was long overs. The Wizards kind of lulled a little bit. They ended up losing that quarter 26-23, but it felt easy. It felt dominant. And I was just sitting there thinking, I was sitting around some of the other guys, Joshua Valdez, Bryson Akins from Sports Illustrated, Henry Brown. And I was like, guys, have you seen an easier looking win for this Wizards team in years? And everybody was kind of in agreement that the answer was no. Brooklyn was simply that bad in this game. And a big reason why is they're playing the majority of their young players that they have on that Brooklyn team. But this felt like a statement, in a way, to me, for this Wizards team. Because you're playing most of your young players as well, outside of the veterans, C.J. McCollum and Chris Middleton, who ended up scoring the first 7 points of this game, kind of setting the tone for you. But get the final numbers. C.J., pretty nice night for him. He had 17, 6 boards, 4 assists, was a plus 18 in the game. Chris Middleton, he finished with 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists on 50% field goal percentage. So those guys didn't do everything for you like they had in some wins, where C.J. McCollum drops 46 in a win over the Atlanta Hawks earlier in the season. It wasn't that way. The Wizards' young players looked a hell of a lot better than the Nets' young players did tonight. And that's why it felt like a statement to me, because it was an opportunity against a depleted team to use this game maybe as a measuring stick to see where you're at in terms of your development. And the Wizards are progressing. They're progressing every single night. And that's why they're playing better basketball right now, because they continue to progress and go forward. I'm not worried about them winning too many games right now. They still have that cushion from being out of the bottom 4 right now, which we know is the important mark you need to be at to keep that top 8 protected pick. But hell, I was talking about it with Bryson actually before the game. Teams that finish with the worst record in the NBA, although the lowest you can drop is 5, the odds are like significantly higher of you actually falling to 5. That's why we fell to 6 last year. That's why Utah fell to 5. So maybe if you find that middle ground where you end up with the 3rd or 4th worst record, maybe you actually get rewarded and receive a better pick as a result because of that. But they're getting better every single night, and that's what matters to me. You love to see the development of the young players. And man, let's start again here with Trey Johnson, who just continues to impress me with his game. 28 minutes tonight, so a little bit more than we're used to seeing from him. Maybe the minutes restriction is starting to come off a little bit for the guy. At 28 minutes tonight, he was a plus 18, 5 of 7 from the field, very efficient, 2 of 3 from behind the arc. So that's now 4 games in a row for Trey where he's knocked down multiple threes in a game. But he continues to impress me for another reason. Now that you know the kind of sniper he is as a shooter, how deep you have to get out there and press him behind the arc. He's shooting shots from the logo as of recent. And the scouting report indicated that for Brooklyn, they were out there pressing him 4 or 5 feet behind the three-point line. So what does Johnson do? He muscles up, gets the basketball in his hands, and he gets to his spot in the mid-range. And he's becoming effective at doing that as a player. That's what's going to set him apart from other players in this league. Because if you can shoot the 3 ball all day, but you can't do much else, you can't create for yourself in many other ways, it's going to be a lot easier for defenses to take that away from you. But Johnson's showing the ability that he can score at multiple levels, that he can play make at multiple levels for this team. Love to see the continued development of Trey Johnson. Also wanted to show some love to Justin Champagnie in this one, who just continues to be a hidden gem for this Wizards team on the team-friendly contract, barely making anything. It seems like he should be making so much more with the kind of energy that he provides for you every single night. 4 offensive rebounds for the guy, and the Wizards were dominant on the glass period in this game. 51 rebounds to Brooklyn's 33, so that tells you a big story of why they were so much better in this game period. But then 20 points on 9 of 12 shooting, 2 for 3 from behind the arc, including the buzzer beater 3 to end the first quarter for Champagnie. You cannot deny this guy as one of your core players at this point. And I'm saying like core as a starter. This guy needs to be part of your long-term contingency plan right now because of the way he's developed, the energy that he brings for you every single night, I think is so important for this Wizards team going forward. And when they're ready to take that next step, hopefully next season, Champagnie seems like the glue guy for you right now. He just consistently gives you great minutes every single night. He had 33 minutes in the win on New Year's Eve against Milwaukee. I love to see that he continues to improve himself and ship in a big way. Bilal Coulibaly as well. I thought this was one of his best games defensively outside of the lockdown Giannis performance that we saw earlier in the season. Man, Bilal was 6 stocks in this game. He had 4 steals and 2 blocks. He was a plus 10. Wasn't great shooting the basketball at 2 for 8. But the most effective thing you could see for Bilal was his ability to create contact and get to the line. He was 7 for 8 from the free throw line tonight, turned the ball over twice, which is something he could work on. But he was using his body to generate contact. He needs to live inside the arc because he's got that quick first step, he's got that burst, he's got that acceleration that allows him to be effective from that realm. And you love to see a player get to the line like that. And honestly, I felt like Brooklyn got to the line a lot more than Washington. Yeah, so 28 free throw attempts for Brooklyn in this one. Let's see, the Wizards finished with only 16. So Brooklyn shot 12 more free throws, but the Wizards still made it look so easy. Another thing that was an indication that this was just an easy win despite the Wizards not even playing that well. Wizards turned the ball over, where's the number right here, 18 times. 18 times. That is a ton. That is above the worst in the league average. Brooklyn turned it over 16 times, so it didn't really do itself any favors with that mark. Man, it is just interesting to see how inept Brooklyn looked out there tonight. The young core continued to develop. Do not worry right now about winning too many games. I think later in the season you might see the tank job kind of ramp up a little bit. I'm not worried about it at this point, and I think Wizards fans should sit back, enjoy the development, and try to take every single night as a stepping stone, as a data point of where this organization is trying to go. And honestly, love to see it. All right, when we come back, it's your chance to shine here on the Locked On Wizards postgame show. It's your time to let it all out. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new: boost, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without having to overthink it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, everybody, it's time for your favorite segment on the Locked On Wizards post-game show. A big win over the Brooklyn Nets. It's your time to let it all out. I'm going to kick things off for it right here. Let's face it, guys, we are getting a lot better from WJM398. We appreciate you subscribing and liking the Locked On Wizards channel, tuning in every single day. We are getting a lot better. This is the thing. We have to accept that the team is progressing, that the team is developing in a way that's meaningful. The number one goal, what did we talk about the whole offseason, is that you wanted to see meaningful development. You didn't want to see them getting blown out every single night, and that's the way it started this year. It was tumultuous, and honestly, after about a month ago or so, I think it was, when this team lost by 45 at home to the Boston Celtics, a team that was missing Jaylen Brown, missing Jalen Tatum in that game, that was embarrassing. Brian Keefe, even after the game, said, we got to reevaluate what we're doing here. And they've made adjustments. And I think Brian Keefe gets a lot of hate from this fan base. And I don't think it's always warranted because of the hand he was dealt at the time. But I think Keefe deserves a little bit of credit for the way the team has developed thus far and the way they've played as of late. I think we should give him his flowers for this situation. Have you seen the standings? We have a long way to go to worry about that pick. That's absolutely right. Thank you, Baltimore. Get up. All right, let's go. Nets here. What a game. Nets trash. LOL. Yeah, that was an inept game for the Brooklyn Nets. They were simply awful in this game, and that's why I made the point that this felt like the easiest win of the entire season. The Wizards didn't really have to play that well, but because your young players have progressed in a way where they can contribute on a night-in, night-out basis the way they have as of recently, that gives you something to look forward to as we move forward along here. Why do they always have to make me panic in the fourth? Yeah, I started to feel that way. It was getting a little bit uneasy. It was a 28-point lead at one point for this Wizards team, and then Brooklyn started to chip away. Sarr ended up hitting that three, then getting an easy layup to kind of quiet things down, and I know they put CJ and Chris back in, which I don't think a lot of people were fans of at that point, but hey, it's going to happen. It was that type of game for the Wizards. It was just that type of night where everybody started to lull and go to sleep a little bit because of how much of a blowout that game had got. All right, from Chuck Best 3780, the Wiz can play the way ninth into a lottery pick, or play the way into a top pick. The lottery respects effort over tanking. I mean, that's right, though, because remember the point, that I brought up earlier in this podcast, that if you finish bottom three, you have 14% odds shared with everybody to get the top pick. But then your odds of dropping to 5 or 6 or 7 or wherever you want to be go significantly higher. And that's the thing I've always found flawed about the lottery. Why is a team that finished with the second worst record in the NBA, why do they have the highest odds of getting the 6th pick? That's what I don't like about the current structure of the NBA lottery. And I think Chuck is actually onto something here. And I wonder if the Wizards are going to play into that a little bit while still keeping that protection by finishing bottom 4. He also says this is how Detroit was playing after that horrible bottom-out year when they set the record with 28 straight losses. Yeah, and that year was interesting because Detroit wasn't even tanking that year, in all honesty. I've talked to the Locked On Pistons guy. He said the team wasn't even tanking. It was just simply that bad. We haven't reached that level of that bad. That 14-game losing streak was pretty brutal. They were playing some brutal basketball early in the season. But they're getting better. They're competing. They're putting forth respectable efforts every single night. And I don't think you can ask for a whole lot more. Let's see. Bub has been playing like he is growing beyond circumstances. That celly he has for his pops after threes is low-key tough. Yeah, man, I love Bub Carrington. It wasn't the best night for him shooting the basketball. Give me a second to pull up the numbers again once here for him. Bub Carrington had 7 points, 3 of 9 from the field, 1 of 5 from behind the arc. So not the best shooting night for the guy that had been red hot shooting the basketball. But I thought he looked decent as a distributor in this game. There were a couple of instances where he got 2 feet in the paint, was able to make plays and dish it off to Bagley down low, who continues to give this team good minutes. I like the way Bub Carrington is growing into his role, growing into his position. And tonight was really the first cold shooting night he had in quite some time. So there's a lot to look forward to with that. Let's continue. Let me find somebody else here. All right, we got one from, DC Sports. Trey was great as well with his movement off the ball and passing. Handles need to tighten up, though. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's going to get better with time. You'll see him improve the dribble moves and improve the ability to break down the defense, get by his man one-on-one. He's getting a little bit better around that. He's getting better at utilizing screens to get around and get to his spot. But the handle, I think, will tighten up for him the more reps he gets. And when C.J. McCollum isn't on this team after the trade deadline, I think that's going to make it a whole lot easier for Trey Johnson to get those touches with the basketball in his hands, because he's effective with the ball in his hands. And I saw it from day one with the guy in the summer league. When he had the ball in his hands, good things happened. He had the ability to get to his spot, his ability to score at all 3 levels, and now he's doing it. It's translating here. And maybe there's really something to be said about him playing through the injury early on in the season, because we didn't see this Trey Johnson through the first 15 games of his career. And you could say it's the first 15 games of his career. That's probably why you didn't see that, and I think there's definitely some validity to that statement. But I love to see the way he's prospering, the way he's gelling right now. All right, we got one from Dive Nomus 1. If we draft one of the studs next season, a real question, who's going to be the second option, Trey or Key? Man, this is a really tough question to ask, because I think if you find yourself in a position where either Trey or Keyshawn are like your secondary or tertiary option, you're in a good spot, because I don't think either of those guys are going to be number one bona fide superstar players. They both looked like insanely good buildable pieces, but then we also have to put Alex Sarr in the equation, but maybe offensively he becomes like your tertiary or even your fourth option. I think right now, just because of the shooting ability, I probably lean Trey, and as a typical 2 guard, I think he'd get the ball in his hands a little bit more. But Keyshawn definitely has a strong argument for the case to be the second option if you get a DeMonsa or someone that becomes your number 1 option. Great question, actually. All right, let's find another one. This one from Doc Miyagi. This is what development looks like. Gonna win some, gonna lose some. Our pick is safe. And I think that's the point I've tried to make throughout the entirety of this episode. And that pick is going nowhere, guys. This organization understands the assignment. They understand what needs to be done going forward for this organization to take the next level. But the development is part of that. They're not going to get any better if they just lose by 30 every single night and then get a top pick. Well, then who's getting better? We need to see that this team is capable. And now we're seeing that a lot of our young guys are capable of doing things on the basketball court. They are capable of developing. They are capable of playing better defensively as well. And that's going to be such an important thing. The passing is the most impressive part of what I'm watching, says Chuck as well. Love that. I agree 100%. From Don't Touch My Silver 802, Bilal Coulibaly needs an offensive development coach over the offseason and a shooting coach, and he will be gold. Yeah, the jumper's just not quite there for Bilal, and I think that's okay right now. I love when he gets after it defensively. You can just tell some nights where he's going to be a menace defensively, and against a team full of really young players like Brooklyn had out there tonight, a lot of guys that don't have a lot of NBA experience offensively, Bilal took advantage. He made it hell on those guys really early in the game. I love those couple instances where he picked the guy's pocket from behind, one of those little reach-around steals, and then led to an easy McCollum 3 in transition. I love it. Let's get another one up here from Chuck. I was so mad at Keefe early, but I can honestly see what he's been saying. Play out the court, and when he is mad, I see why. Yeah, Keefe cares a lot about these players, and I think that's the number one thing I've discovered from just talking to people within the organization, that Brian Keefe does connect with these players really well. He's with them every single day, and they have good habits that they're trying to build in terms of process. He says the word process like 50 times in a press conference. That's kind of the buzzword for Brian Keefe. But, you know, there's something to be said about saying that, because when he talks about process, he talks about the way you practice, the way you show up to shoot around, the way you watch film the preparation that you do every single night. And he says if you continue that process and you build the habits you need there, you're going to see those results translate on the floor. And maybe that's what we're seeing. We're seeing this team grow right now because they're getting used to the process that they've been within the entire season. We have so many comments I'm trying to get through, and it's a little bit harder with just me today. AB off for the night. I'm going to try to get in one more here before we wrap things up on the Locked On Wizards podcast. There was over 80 of you in here at one point. We appreciate all of you. I'm going to pick the best one to put up here. Okay, let's go right here from 99 Brando. Trey is still too passive, in my opinion. I know CJ's on the team, but we still haven't seen him break out yet. Needs to be 15 shots a game. And Brando, I understand that. I think that's coming. But CJ McCollum is a 14-year veteran player. He's going to go out there and get his. It's not going to be a situation where you see McCollum out there just passing up on shots. That's not the kind of player he is, and the Wizards don't want him to be that kind of player. I think they're happy with what they've got out of him because he's trying to set the standard for these young Wizards players. And I don't know if you guys saw that comment he made on Jeff Teague's podcast where he said, these dudes are scary. This young core of players, they're doing this at 19 and 20 years old. Just wait until they're 24 or 25. They're going to be dominating this league. And I think that is a great point that CJ makes. All right, everybody, a little bit of a shorter edition of Locked On Wizards Day, so we apologize that, but we do appreciate all of you that tuned in for the post-game live today. It's a lot of fun when this team is playing well, when the young guys are gelling and starting to really progress here, and that's exactly what has happened. We want to thank everybody for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NBA Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Josh Lloyd will get you right. 119-99, Wizards with an easy dub over the depleted Nets tonight. DC family, we will talk to you later.